Hi and welcome back. So today we'll be discussing a little bit about layouts, how basically layouts work in Android, and I have this layout slides from the Google training. So we'll just go through some of the layout slides and then we'll jump into our another app, which is a calculator. So first thing is basically let's just, as you know that Android have a lot of devices that comes in many different screen sizes, screen design and stuff. So an Android can have different kind of screens. Let's say they have phones, tablets, watches, and Google Auto. The next thing is which is our density independent pixels, which means that what you need to do is you need to whenever you are going to define the size of the view in the layout file, what you need to do is define it in the DP. What it mean is that it's independent of the screen density, and it calculates that density based on the screen size that is available. So let's say if a smaller screen size, it will adjust it accordingly. There is some issues with the hard coding stuff, but there are stuff that it handles pretty well. Now we have this formula which you can see is that the dp is the width in the pixels into 160 divided by screen density. Let's suppose we have a screen density of 160 dpi, and we have the width in pixel, which is we want 40 dp, 40 pixels. So basically what it will happen is that it will multiply the 40 into the 160 divided by screen density. So that is how it's gonna do it for you. And then you have the screen density buckets. We have different kind of screens for each different size. We have LDPI, which is 120 dpi, quite kind of a very low density. Then we have medium density, which is approximately 160 dpi. Then we have high density 240 dpi, extra high density 320 dpi, and extra high so basically these are the different kind of densities that you have for Android. Now the another thing is, the important thing is how the rendering, like the view cycle of the render happen, is that the first thing is that the view is being measured, then the layout file is the layout is being created, and then it's been drawn to the view. So this is how the views are done. Then one more important thing for a view is that you can draw it the way you want, but at the end of the day each and every view is a triangle. So on a screen we might see something like this on the top, but it's going to be drawn in a rectangular way. Then we have with margin, without margin, and padding. What is margin, what is padding? So a margin is the top level spacing, the outer space that a view is gonna get. Let's say this the blue section in this specific rectangle is the view, and the top one is the parent. So it means the space in the gray, light gray section, this specific space is basically called as margins. And if there is some sort of space inside the view which is being drawn in the right section, if you see the top section from this top to this specific one, the light gray one is the margin. But inside this view we have this dark gray spacing. Now this kind of spacing is called, the internal spacing is called as padding. So outer space is margins and the inner spacing is padding. And that's a bit it for what we needed for this video right now. And we discussed a little bit constraint layout, and today we are gonna discuss linear layout and how linear layout works. So we'll be creating a calculator app which have some number of buttons, and then we'll try to add some functionality as well to that. But we the basic purpose of this video will be to learn how linear layouts work. So let's just create a new project with an empty activity. Next, I'll name it calculator, language Scotland, and then just finish it. It will build for a while. And again, let's just revise what we did in the previous video as well. We created a manifest file that contained the activity that we wanted. Then we got the main activity class. In the resource file, you can see we got the layout file. There are some default launchers, and then IC launcher, mip maps, values are being generated. So these are some auto generated stuff which is already done. So the next important thing is to go to the layout file. You can go to the layout file, open this file from there, or maybe if you are on Mac you can press command, or if you are on window you can press control and then click on this file and it will open it for you. Now you see we again have this constraint layout and a text view. What I want to get rid of this, so I'll just delete uh, this, and if I have to change it, I can convert view to a linear layout directly from here as well. And now I created it, I changed this to a linear layout. Now it's horizontal, you can see. So I need to update the property of this to vertical. Now what I'm gonna do is I'll go to attribute search, and then I'll search for uh, orientation, and once I get that in the orientation I'll change it to vertical. Now what does it mean, the orientation? The linear mean is just a stack, so whatever you place it just keep in a sequential way. It will be each element will be placed sequentially. So um let's just try it. I'll add a button to this. You can see the button is being placed there, and once I add another button it will be like done like this. So you can see that each button, whenever I add it, just go to the bottom since it's a vertical orientation. Let's just change the orientation to horizontal and see what happens. So right now it's just one, because the horizontally the other views are out of the views. And what I'll do is I'll change this width from match parent to wrap so that it can place. Now you can see all the buttons are over here, and since it's overriding, so it's just updated it. Now how to handle it, what we need to do is just we need to create, we have some button in the bottom, maybe 0 1 2 3 4 5 up to 9, and then plus minus multiply and divide. We just have these 4 to 5 buttons over here. So first of all, what I'm gonna do is I'll switch back to the orientation to vertical. And now, as I mentioned earlier as well, that our layout can contain multiple layouts as well. So I'll add one more layout inside this, and now this layout is going to be a horizontal layout. Okay, so I had a linear layout, a vertical layout, and then inside that I have a horizontal layout. Now what I'm gonna do is I'll add up at least 3 buttons to it. Okay, I got 3 buttons in placed over here. Now I'll do one more thing. I'll just repeat this step. I'll add a horizontal layout and just add buttons to it. Just make sure that the height of this specific internal layouts is wrap content, so it displays the other elements as well. And the buttons that you are going to place should also have wrap content as width and height. Now I got these 2 layouts. I'll just copy these and then I'll go to the top one and paste it so that it generates the whole. So I'll select one more, I'll add one more to it, and now you can see that I got the height to be wrap content for each one, and I got this one. Okay, now let's just start from the very first one. Let's just see which one is this one. Okay, first of all I'll change the ID to bt, or maybe not this one. Let's start with this one. It's going to be bt 0. Now I'll change the text for it. The text is going to be 0. Okay, now we go to this one, we'll change it to 1. We'll get this one, we'll change it to 2. We'll get this one, we'll change it to 3, and then this is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we got this thing over here. I'll just add a plus, minus, maybe what we can do is we can add a divide button over here. This is going to be a decimal, and this is going to be an equals to. So let's just say right now we have this thing, and one more thing what we want is that we want to have a text view on the top of every view. Not over here, we'll just drag it in the top of this. Okay, and the text height should be wrap, while the width should be parent, which is fine. I'm not gonna use this as 1, which is cool. I'll use this match. Okay, and the text size is, I want the text size to be a little bit bigger. So what I'm gonna do is I'll keep it to 0 first, and the text size will be updated to maybe 34. Okay, and we discuss margin. So now we'll be talking about margin. I want to have some spacing between these buttons, that internal button that we have. So what I'm gonna do is I'll select all these 3 and then go over here and search for margins. So the outer section is, as I mentioned, is margin, and once I do that, I'll add 8 dp to it so that it adds some spacing to it. Now these 3 are done, and then for the next 3 what I'm gonna do, I'll do the same stuff. I'll just add 8 dp. Okay, same goes for the other 3 as well. And you can do one more thing. If you have a command button, you can just press command, select all the buttons, and then add the layout margin to 8, and it will add to all the buttons over here. The next thing is that we want this text to be on the right side. So for that, what we are supposed to do is you are going to use gravity, and the gravity over here we need to go to the right, which is going to be true, and end as well. Plus you can see this text is going to touch the border, so we want to have some spacing internally. So for internally, you remember we used padding, and I'll use padding for the whole, from top, bottom, and left, right. So what does it mean? If you add padding to this specific section, it will add padding from each side, from like top, left, right. And if you want to have some specific padding, let's say I want that padding from top, I'll just add it over here, and you can see the top is updated. If you want to have it on the right, it will just add to the right. So that's why I wanted to have from the whole from the 4 sides. I added this. Now we have this thing implemented, but the next thing is to add some IDs to each one of them, so that we can assign it in the file. So what I'm gonna do is I'll say bt equal, and the ID is going to be updated. Hopefully it's not updating. There's I guess there is some issue with the Android Studio. Normally it updates it, but right now it's not updating. So what we are going to do is we are going to change it directly from the code. So on the top right corner of this specific view, you can see we have design, split, and code. It means that if you want to design it by drag and drop, you can do it. But if you want to see the code and update the code, you can do it by clicking on the code and you'll get the XML code. And if you want to see both, you can split it and you can see the impact of what's happening over here. Let's say I have this text view, the text 0. I'll add F, and if I change it, you'll see the text is being updated. You see over here. Now I'll get back and keep it 0 again. And what I want is I want to change the button ID. So I'll add this button. This is button add. This is button subtract. This is button divide. This is button 7. Then we have this button 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, decimal, 0, equals. Okay, so I have assigned all the IDs to it, and the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create some late init reference for that. So I'll just create a late init var, and the var will be button 0, let's say, which is going to be a button. So this is one, and then I'll just create for some copies out of it, and I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's not 10, actually it's equal, add, subtract, divide, and I guess I have decimal, and I'll add divide. So we have all the buttons over here. Now the next thing is to initialize them. So I'll say button 0 equals to find view by id r.id dot button 0. So this is initialized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'll just copy paste it real quick. Three, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so what I have done is I have initialized all the buttons and linked it. I'll just try to run it and see if the UI is displaying correctly and the buttons are placed correctly. And the next thing will be to add listeners to these buttons, and based on that get the result. So you see we have all the buttons in place. I just want the buttons to perform the action. Okay, now previously, if you remember, what we did is we added button, we got the button, and then we added a set on click listener to it. And if we do that, you remember we have to implement everything. But this thing, if we have to do this, we have to keep it doing for all the views, and it's going to be a lot of stuff to do. But right now what I'm gonna do is that I'll get it out over here, and I'm gonna implement, since the on click listener is a interface, so we can implement it on the class level. And it will ask me to implement the method, which is an on click method. And now I'll link this method or this specific section to the view. So I'll say I'll just copy this all, and or maybe I can show you a sample before doing that. Set on click listener, and in now I'll add this to it. Now rather than doing having that curly braces and implementation for all, what we'll do is we'll add the implementation over here inside this, and then we'll do this. So for button 0 is there, I'm gonna copy this section, and then I'll copy this line from this, and I'm gonna say can do this. Or if you want to do something else, you can press Ctrl R or Command R if you are on window respectively, and then you can just keep on changing, or maybe not. So I'm gonna just remove the ID as well. Now you can see I'll just do this, and then I'll get rid of this. So you can like directly replace the text like we do in a normal doc file, or maybe or some other text editing sections. Now I have added a listener to this, and what I'm gonna do is I'll also create a result text view. So I'll just late init var, and then I'll say the result text view, and it is going to be a text view. And over here we need to initialize it, which is find view by id r dot id, and I want to see what's the text id of the text view. You can see it's just a text view. I'll copy this and I'll add it over here. Now once the user click, for now what we are going to do is we'll see the result text view dot text equals to whatever the button is being clicked. We are going to say v dot get text. So basically it's not gonna do that. So what we are going to say is v as button. This is basically a casting. Since the view we know is going to be a button, we can also update it to button as well, or not, we can't. Okay, cool. So we can have this as button, and then we can properties and text by using this. So whatever button we click, it will get the text and place it in the result section. And let's just see if this works. So I'll run the code, and now you see this is loaded. I'll press 8, the text is updated to 8. I'll press 3 and 2 1 8 6. So whatever I press, it basically update the text view. Now the next thing is to add the logic to it, and that could be that what how we can achieve that is that I will add a check, and the check could be So basically what we want to do is we want to check if it's a plus, minus, divide or equal. So if these are the four elements, we will not update the text view, or we will basically add the calculate the result for those. And how we are gonna do is, let's say first of all what I'm gonna do is I'll create a double value, sorry, a wall value equals to 0, 0.0. So it's a double which is created, and then this is, I'll say that it's the selected value. I'll say selected value, the first selected values. Okay. And the next thing what I'm gonna do is I'll add a check to this. So I'll use when. We remember we used the when for in the Kotlin basics. So we have this ID, and now what we are gonna do is r dot id dot if it's button add, we are going to perform an action for add, for divide and for equal. So just created for equals button add button, what was the last one is divide. Okay, so we got this thing, and for the other part for the else section, what we are going to do is we are keeping it like this. Okay, and this as well. Okay, so so what does it mean is that if the selected value, or let's just do one more thing, I'll add a double to it and I'll keep it null. It's a nullable value, so I'll keep it null. Okay, which means that this resultant value is not initialized right now. And once this value is correct selected, then we'll check if selected value equals to null, we'll do some stuff. Else what we are going to do is we are going to set the selected value equals to double dot how are we going to do that? We are going to get the v as button dot text dot toString dot to double. So we are going to assign the selected value to this, and we are update the wall to war as well. What does it mean is that what we did over here is we'll see if the value is null, it means that the first time the application just run, the selected value will equals to null. And if the selected value has some value, if it's null, we'll assign it the value of whatever button was clicked. And if it's like if it already had value, then what we will say is that we also need one more thing, var previous operator equals to previous operator, and over here we can assign some properties. Let's say I'll say -1, which means it's null. -1. What I'm gonna say, what I'm doing over here is that I'll use one for add. So one for add, 2 for subtract, 3 for divide, and 4 for equals. Okay, so and the -1 means there is no operator right now. Now over here we will check if operator, previous operator equals to -1, it means we'll just replace it. Right now we'll just replace it, and if else, if we have a previous operator selected and the selected value is done, what we'll do is we create another function and we'll see calculate result, and over here what we are going to do is we are going to pass a value as double. So we'll pass a double to it, and that double will be that perform an action. So we'll say calculate result, and then we will pass this inside this. So this value will be passed to this. Now once this button subtract is equal, it means that the previous operator will equals to 2, and previous operator will equals to 4. For button add, it means it equals to 1, and for button divide, it means equals to 3. So this is what we have done, which is this. Now in the calculate result we'll see if, or maybe we can say when we'll pass the previous operator, and the previous operator will say if the previous operator is 1, it means that we are going to add. If it's 2, we are going to do some other stuff, and if it's 3, we are going to divide. So these are the two things. For equals we are not handling it from here, so for equal we'll be directly doing stuff from this section where it is. Okay, now what next? The next thing is that we need to calculate. It means that we are going to use selected value plus value. Okay, and we are going to set it to the resultant text. So resultant text set text dot text equals to, and what I'm gonna do is I'll use the dollar variable section, and I'll just add this section over here. So we need to check this one. I'll just add a, we know that this is going to be initialized once used over here, and then if it's this, then rather than using minus, will this, and if this, will just use the divided by. Okay, so we have done this stuff, and let's just try if this thing works. So we'll just run the code and see if it works. So what I'm gonna do is I'll say 8 plus 9. Why is it updating this text? I guess that's why. So I'll just keep it away. Now let's remove this previous line that we added. So now we say 8 plus 9 equals to 17.0. so it's like basically showing us the result. Now 17 plus 0 plus 5. Wow, interesting. So selected value, oh, okay, sorry, yeah, so basically we are doing something wrong. So I'm gonna say what I'm gonna do is I'll keep the result into the resultant, and then we just say this, and from this section we'll see selected value equals to selected value like this, so that it just don't remove the previous value, and it will give you the resultant. Now once we get out of here, we'll say we'll set the resultant into the result text view. So result text view dot set text, and then we have set text, then we have selected value dot to string. So this is how we have. Now if I try to run it again, now if I see 8 plus 8 equals to 16 plus 4 equals to 20 minus 9 equals to 11. So this is a little bit of basic calculator that we can do. There are still pretty much other edge cases that we can implement, but the major portion was to understand this linear layout section, and this is the very basic. Now let's say if we want to design a little bit more better calculator, like we don't want these three button on top, but we want these three button on the right section, and this equal should go to somewhere else. So a little bit of design change, how we can do that. And then right now we are just using equal thing. What if we want this section to be a little bit bigger and this section to be in the bottom? So these kind of stuff that we want to do. So first of all, what we are going to do is we want this whole button section to be in the bottom, and so for that what we are going to do is I'll go back to the design section, and I'll just close the emulator section as well. Now I want this whole button section in the bottom, so I'll go to the parent text linear layout, and inside that if I remember gravity, and that inside the gravity what we are going to do is click the bottom, or maybe end, sorry, no, bottom. We should find for the bottom, and over here you can see this is bottom. Now this text view is a little bit lower, so what we can do is we can add some margin from the bottom as well. So we can add some margin to the bottom, and let's say I'll add 30 dp to it, so that it's a little bit on the top as well. Now this is something we have achieved. Now the next thing is that I want to update the buttons design a bit, so that it looks different in term of values, and how we are going to achieve it. So basically these three buttons, I want these three button on the right, like four button on the right, and according to that the design should be updated. So what we are going to do, you remember we had this thing, each and everything. Now you remember this, that this is a vertical layout which has these two things. What if I enclose these all in another vertical layout, and like add one more layout which is a vertical layout beside that, and that layout will basically display this. So how we are supposed to do that? First of all, we want to enclose this layout inside a linear layout. So what I'm gonna do is I'll go to layout, linear layout, vertical, and then I'll place it over here. So this, and then I'll get all these linear layouts and add it inside this thing. Okay, the first thing is done. This is going, the height is for this is going to be match parent, so I'm gonna change it to wrap content, so it get back to the bottom. Now we have this vertical layout. Now what I'm gonna do is I'll use another horizontal layout over here, and this layout that I just recently created, I'll add it inside this thing. Okay, now again the height for this should be wrap, so that it's over here. Now you can see we have this horizontal and there is this vertical layout. What I'm gonna do is I'll add one more vertical layout to this view, and I'll add it to the top. This is going to be our wrap content in term of height, and in term of width, both of them are match parent, but we got this thing. Now what just happened is that plus, minus, and equals should go to these buttons, like these plus, minus, and so I'm gonna copy these and I'm gonna add it to the vertical layout I just created, plus from this section I'm gonna get rid of this layout. Okay, right now you cannot see it because it's not on the screen, and this is where basically the layout weights come into action. So we can't see this. What we need to do is we need to assign weight for this. Let's say by default the weight is 1. So we have this one. Let's say I'll add one weight to this, one to this one, and I add one to this. It means that it will divide the available space of the parent layout. Right now we have this linear layout as parent, and we have these two inside this. So what I did is I basically added this layout, this linear layout, the added weight of 1 to, since this is a horizontal, so it will divide the space equally. But it's not what I want. What I want is that these buttons should have lesser space. Let's see, we have this 4 sections, so let's just divide the screen into 4 sections. It means that 2.5. So if I add the value, so what I want to do is I want to divide this specific top level layout into 4 sections, which means is that if I assign 2.5 value to this, that's fine. Or what next we can do is over here to the top level layout, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add weight sum as 100. It means this weight sum for this layout is 100. Now inside this linear layout, since these are the views, what we want to do is the weight for this one should be 25, and for this one we want the weight to have 75. Okay, so it's basically reverse since we are using this. So just remember that this is going to be a reverse thing. So I reversed it, and now you can see that we got this thing over here. Okay, now what next we can do is that this thing is done. We have plus, minus, and divide. Now one more thing that I want is that I want to have plus, minus, and yeah, I'll just add one more button to this board layout, another button which should be, which is going to be this one more thing. Let's first of all I'll just make it a match parent, maybe, or maybe not. Okay, and this button should be multiply. So I'll just update the text for this one to be multiply. Now there is some issues with the design, so let's just try to get those fixed. Okay, so we have this button. Does it have any sort of padding and stuff? It has weight. Does it have weight? Yes, it do. Does these have any sort of margins? Let's just try to see if any of the button have some sort of margin or anything. Yeah, you can see it has a 8 dp margin while this button doesn't. So we'll add a 8 dp margin to this as well, so that it is being placed properly. Now you can see we have this whole section available, and it's like working fine. What we can do is we can run it. The multiply button won't work. Compilation error. What just happened? Why? What this button ID mean? Button divide to, okay, sorry. So it's just updated the ID for this, so we'll just update the IDs of these two values. And now if we run it, come on, okay, so now if you run it, you'll be able to see this. Now you can see the result is that we got the multiply button as well. Now that's it for this specific video.